these are my recent reads. I have read 5 books this year, which I think is pretty good. I know it's low for some people, but I am a slow reader and I enjoy reading books slowly, so I have no intention to read faster. I would like to read more. If you've been watching my reading vlogs, you'll see that I've been trying to read at least 1 page a day. So far, it's worked. I have not skipped a day. My Storygraph streak is still intact, but I have been counting audiobooks now that I'm past January, so I haven't been reading as much physically. I have been consuming a lot of Severance content, but... The first book I finished this year is The Lotus Empire by Tasha Suri. This is the final book in the Burning Kingdoms. Yeah, the Burning Kingdoms trilogy. It's the series that starts with the Jasmine Throne. This is the Jasmine Throne. It's set in ancient India and it's got plant magic. There's like an emperor and burning people and old gods and different religious orders. It's really good. It's great. I don't want to explain too much about the plot of this book because it will spoil the other books, but just trust me, this is just really good fantasy. Also, if you've read the first 2 books and you haven't read this yet, I do have a full recap of the Oleander Sword on my TikTok. So if you're thinking like, I can't read this book because I can't remember what happens to the Oleander Sword, I have that because I finished the Oleander Sword and I thought, I'm not going to remember this by the time this book comes out. So the video was mainly for me. But yeah, I think this whole series is just like a solid fantasy. It's just good. Next, I listened to Dark Space. This is like a sci-fi thriller spy book. Some of the passages kind of read like Ray Bradbury novels. It has like a lot of cliched language in it. I really think the words "she let out a breath she didn't know she was holding" was uttered in this book. We follow 2 characters who have a shared past and a shared incident, but both of them have been treated in different ways. One of them ends up as a pilot on a ship that is going to a new planet that the humans plan to terraform and use as their own new home, and the other person ends up getting demoted from their like spy intelligence job to like admin. It's interesting and I really liked it. I don't know, there was something very surface level about this whole book. I'm not really sure what it was. I don't know, because I genuinely had fun listening to this. I just can't work out why I didn't have any stronger feelings. I haven't looked into it, but this book really does feel like 2 men wrote it. Like, I can't explain it, just something about the way the women are written. Like, they're written like men. That feels like the writing advice of, if you don't know how to write women, just write men and make them a woman afterwards, you know? I just had a weird feeling about it. This book definitely leans on the spy thriller side than the sci-fi side, so if you're not too fussed on spy thrillers, this might not be for you. Next, I got the arc for Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. This is a reworking of Carmilla. I read Carmilla originally years and years ago, but I've never actually read any like retellings or reworkings of Carmilla ever, unless you count the YouTube series that everyone watched. It's set around the time of the Industrial Revolution, and we follow this couple who are going from their London house to their like country manor house that's like closer to where the steelwork place where her husband owns, and on their way there they come across a carriage that's crashed? Do carriages break down? Anyway, the carriage contains Carmilla, who has no one else and must be taken back to their country manor to recuperate. And with her, she brings her insatiable hunger that starts to infect everyone around. And it's so good. This book is written in like such a prim and proper way that the things, like the events that happen in this book are scandalous. And it's so good. I felt like shocked at things that were happening, and it's just so thrilling. I loved this book. It's got such a great energy. But my only thing is, it took me to the 50% mark to become in this book. So I don't know how people feel about that. I was fine kind of just reading it a little bit and not being fully in it for the first half of the book. But you might be in it straight away. I don't know. I don't regret reading this book because I loved the last half. So... and maybe if I reread it, I would now be really loving the first half as well. I just found it really hard to get into. I don't know why that is. I was reading it in short bursts. That's maybe part of it. I don't know. And I really struggle with the flashback sections. We get like bits of her life as a child first, and I didn't care enough about her as a person to care about her as a child, you know? And there was no like running storyline that was happening in these flashbacks. It was just kind of little bubbles of things that were happening, and I didn't care. And I don't think the book needed it really at all. I'm not sure what it added at all. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think we needed it, and I was bored. I didn't care about her, and I don't really care enough about her as a person. Like, do I? Yeah, I did, but in the first half of the book, I didn't want to find out what she was doing as a child. I barely cared about her tragic beginning. All that said, I still loved it. I thought it was great. I found myself genuinely horrified during certain parts of it, and I don't think I get that with many books, mainly because I avoid horror, if we're being honest, because it makes me sad. But this didn't make me sad. I thought this was great. Well, there are bits that can be sad, but not in the same way that I feel really let down when I read other horror books, you know? I mean, you don't know, but... Next, I started Several People Are Typing, mainly because I've been obsessed with Severance, and I heard about this book a couple of years ago during the Transverse Readathon, and I thought it sounded really interesting, and I kind of added it to my, like, hypothetical TBR and forgot about it. Then I started watching Severance, and I was like, oh, Several People Are Typing. I need to read that book, and it was great. I'm so glad I did. It's about a guy who gets sucked into Slack, and I used Slack for my last job, so I was in it. If you don't know, Slack's like a messaging kind of thing. You can have it on your phone, or you can have it on your computer, and it's just the way people communicate. So it has all these little chats, and you know how chats work. It's a messaging system that workplaces use. But he gets sucked into it, and the whole novel is written as these Slack messages, which I far prefer. I'm not fussed on reading text chats in books, especially if it's a book like this, and it'll be a regular book, and then just I have to switch into reading a text. But because this book is only that format, I found it really easy to just get used to it and go with the flow of it. Then you're sort of reading it like a play. You get the person's name and what they're saying, and it works so much better than having to jump from like regular story to like text chat, you know? So I thought, format-wise, I loved it. It was great. And you don't just get Gerald's conversations in Slack, you get like everyone's conversations, which is so good. Like you'll see what people are like talking about. They're a marketing company, so you see like this stuff that's going on with the dog food company that they're all talking about, and then you see two of them that are like interested in each other and what they're talking about. It's just so good. I love being nosy, and this feels like being nosy, you know, like I'm in like watching everyone's messages. I thought this was a great reading experience. I had so much fun. I have so many questions, which I think is good for a book. Like I didn't have questions like, none of this makes sense. I just have a question of like, what was going on with Lydia? If you've read this book and you have a good solid theory about what was going on with Lydia, I would love to hear it. Please let me know, because I'm so confused. I think I might have to reread the book because I don't know. I don't know what was happening. Like, no, I have no idea. And I feel like normally I'm quite good at that kind of stuff, but I have not a single clue what was going on with Lydia. And my final book is What You're Looking For Is in the Library. I was gifted this for Christmas from my friend. She said I would like it, and she was right, which is weird because I tend to not buy myself these types of books. I don't know why. I'm a sci-fi fantasy person, I think, at heart, and I tend to reach for those books more. But this was so good. This book made me cry multiple times. It's not sad. I just felt so deeply, like it resonated so deeply with me that I just felt myself becoming like emotional reading it. It's just so good. It follows different people who are interacting with a library for the first time in their life or after a really long time. First time maybe in their adult life, and it's just so lovely. I love getting little glimpses into people's lives. And it has pictures, and everyone's life just feels so messy and fully fleshed out in both the pictures and the text. Also, what it does really well is connecting all the stories in like tiny ways. So there'll be like people who occur in multiple stories. The library turns up in every story, obviously, but then there's other like the place that the first girl worked at. Other people visit that place to buy things, and it all like, you know, it connects together. They're all existing within the same universe, and I love that. I really like appreciate when stories that have different segments connect and they all don't feel just like separate, like they could be happening in completely different universes, you know? I'm quite pleased. I think it's a really good start to the year. I have some good sci-fi books lined up for next. I like physically own, so I'm really excited about that. But my current read is the Rickon book from Severance, so that's where I'm at right now. Anyway, see you in the next one.